This is the Brazoria County Minute. And now the host of the Brazoria County Minute, Christen English.
Okay, hi, I'm Christen English with eXp Realty, and I am here in the Be Remembered Studios in Lake Jackson, Texas. And I have my guest here today, Pastor Dr. David Huang. He is with Harvest for the Hungry. And if you have not heard of this nonprofit organization that's in our area, I'm super excited for you to get to find out about it today. I just learned about it last year, and it's just a really cool thing. Constantly new things, and it's growing, and I'm excited for you to get to hear about it today. So, Dr. David Huang, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first of all, thank you, Christen, for having me on your podcast.
Yes, excited to have you here.
So my name is...
Such a cool guy, you guys. Such a cool guy.
Thank you so much. My name is David Huang, as you mentioned, and I do serve as a pastor at a church in Cypress, Texas called Faith Fellowship Presbyterian Church.
Okay.
And I also do serve as a physician at the Veterans Affairs Medical Center in the emergency room in the medical center.
Okay.
And so in addition to that, I am a proud husband and father of two little daughters, 3 and 4.5. And so between all those things, they keep me busy, but I am also passionate about helping our community, especially those that are struggling with food insecurity. And that's really a little bit about what I usually do during the week.
Okay. Well, so can you tell us what kind of birthed the idea of this nonprofit organization for you?
So when I grew up, I personally struggled with food insecurity. My parents were immigrants. As a child, I grew up in poverty, and there were many nights where we did not have food on the table. Much less healthy food on the table. So there were nights that I went to bed with an empty stomach, and more than that, there was a lot of shame, embarrassment, and alienation from food insecurity as a child. I still remember having to go up to the cashier with that food ticket, free lunch, and all my peers watching me and teasing me, and that left a lasting impression on my childhood.
I can imagine.
And as a result of that, I grew up praying and that God would one day show me the time and the place to be able to open up a farm where we could address food insecurity in our community.
Okay, so that's what you have now, right? So the reason that I really wanted to interview you and get this information out there is because before I met you last year, and our mutual friend Lisa Werner took us out and showed us the farm. I had driven by it many times and always wondered, what is that? And so it was really exciting to get to go. And when you gave us the tour and to see all that is happening out there, I was just blown away. And so can you tell us where it's located? So any of our viewers who have driven by that have wondered what it is can put the two and two together?
Absolutely. So Harvest for the Hungry is located at 4302 Freeport, Texas. And so it's technically in Oyster Creek, and it's located on 61 acres. And that 61 acres is broken down into 30 acres of water, lake and pond, and then 31 acres of land.
Okay, so if you're like driving from Oyster Creek down, what is it, FM 523? That's the right road, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you're going towards like, what is that, FM 2004? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So you're going to pass, would be on your right-hand side.
Correct.
There is a little, it's a red barn, right? Out by the road. And it says Harvest for the Hungry on it.
That's absolutely right.
That is where he's at.
That is where we're at. We're right across the street from the Oyster Creek City Park. Mm-hmm. There is also the City Hall, the Oyster Creek City Hall. And we're right past that. Just like you said, Christen, there's a red shed with a large Harvest for the Hungry logo on FM 523.
And you guys have a new structure there on the property that you've just built as well. So if anyone's been driving by in the past year, they've seen that being erected there.
Absolutely. That is our new learning center. That's a 4,000 square foot education center where we're teaching the community the benefits to eating healthy. And that building structure sits on the corner of 523 and County Road 792.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. That's exciting. I think that you had told me there'll be like some cooking classes and things like that so that the people, when they get the healthy food, can be taught what to actually do with it. Because I think there's a lot of just average Americans who, don't have food insecurity that would not know how to prepare healthy food at times. So I think that's great.
Yeah, so at Harvest for the Hungry, we really focus on three things. Our mission is to provide healthy farm-to-table food for those struggling with food insecurity. But as a pastor and as a physician, the mission behind the mission is we want to share the gospel. We want everyone to know Jesus. And that's the reason why Harvest for the Hungry was actually formed. And so we use feeding people physically as a platform for feeding people spiritually. And we do that through three things. And I like to remember things in mnemonics. So it's the 3 E's. So we want to give the community members who are struggling with food insecurity, we want to give them an experience. So we want to teach them how to garden and farm so that they're putting their hands in the soil, they're preparing the soil, they're able to plant, maintain, and harvest. So they get that experience where they can also take that back and what they learned at the farm, they can do at their
That's
own
wonderful.
home in their backyard. They can make a raised bed and have a sustainable food source that's healthy and nutritious.
Oh, that's really good. I love that. I really love that.
The second E is education. Just as you mentioned, we built this 4,000 square foot education center. So the community that's struggling with food insecurity, once they harvest their food, they bring it to the education center and we teach them the benefits to eating healthy. The vitamins, the nutrients, the protein, their fiber. We teach them how to prepare the food in a healthy and tasty manner. And that's not just
great.
Oven and stovetop cooking, but that's also in non-traditional ways, such as canning, freeze drying, dehydrating, and many other ways. And we really want to emphasize that because a lot of times our food insecure population is dependent on food pantries. And food pantries, God bless them, they do give a lot of food to those in need. But unfortunately, a lot of their food are canned,
Right.
which canned food have high salt content.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're boxed foods, which are typically highly processed.
Right.
They have
Lots of preservatives.
a lot of preservatives, a lot of fat, a lot of sugars in there. We want to give them local, healthy food and show them how to prepare it in a healthy and tasty manner that has a long shelf life. If you just put these fruits and vegetables in the refrigerator or outside, they're going to spoil within a couple of weeks.
Right.
But if you're able to can them, freeze dry them, then you can actually preserve these healthy, nutritious foods for years.
Wow. Yeah. So true.
And then the third E is evangelism. We want to share the gospel with everybody that comes out. We want everybody to know Jesus. We want them to feel God's presence. When people come out to the 61 acres, one of the first comments that I always hear is that it's so peaceful out here. You can really feel God's presence out there and not only see all of his creation on display in terms of the property, but also his people, these creations of his people and the love and the community wanting to help the community succeed. So really, those are the three things that we emphasize at Harvest for the Hungry: experience, education, and evangelism.
Yeah, and I can definitely attest to the feeling that you get when you're there. I know when I've been out there, I kind of feel like you're in your own, like this little bubble out there. It's like you feel like you can breathe a little deeper and It's just very, very peaceful, and you can just feel it kind of fall over you when you're there. So it definitely can attest to that.
Yeah, and it's really a blessing because if you look at when we started Harvest for the Hungry, we started in 2019. That's when we were incorporated and became a nonprofit.
That has not been very long.
That has not been very long. And very importantly, during that period of time, that was the COVID pandemic.
Right.
And that's when God gave us the greatest growth for Harvest for the Hungry.
Wow.
Not only in production, we've produced over 18,000 pounds of food for our community. We've been able to accumulate over 1,000 volunteers during these short few years. We've been able to have over 36 nutritional education classes promoting healthy eating. And then we've had over 60 plus people who've come to know the Lord Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. And so those are some of our key metrics. And again, that all happened during the COVID-19 pandemic.
The least likely time that you would think.
Yes. And so God gave us growth during that time because a lot of people, they were quarantined and they were looking for a way to get outside into the fresh air and to be able to help serve their community.
Right. Utilize their time to get out there.
And so we really were blessed, and we look forward, to seeing what God will have for us the next few years to decade, Lord willing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned, feeding the community. Can you tell me some of the ways that Harvest for the Hungry gets the food out there to the people in need?
Yes. So before I get to that question, I should really tell what types of foods we have out there.
Yes.
So we have 5 types of food at Harvest for the Hungry. Number 1, we have high tunnels, and we have field crops, and we grow lots of different types of vegetables: squash, zucchini, tomatoes, cucumbers, you name it, we grow it. Secondly, we have fruit trees out there. We have apple trees. We did have a lot of citrus, but because of the past couple of years where there were freezes.
Yeah, it's really hard on the citrus trees.
They're very hard on the citrus trees. So we've now kind of switched to apple trees, which they like the cold weather. They like to have some chill hours. And so we have apple trees, we have pear trees, and we have some other fruit trees like pomegranates. Thirdly, we have chickens. We had over 100 chickens, and they lay about an egg every day or every other day.
So you get lots of eggs.
We get lots of eggs, a great protein source. Number 4 is we have 26 bee boxes.
Wow, lots of honey.
Each box produces about 40 gallons of honey.
Wow.
At least once a year.
And local honey is so good for you.
It's very good, especially for those who have allergies.
Yes.
Because bees use the pollen to help make nectar and honey, which if you take the honey, helps you
definitely
be a little bit more immune to allergies and pollen in this area.
Yes, and I drink my coffee with local honey in it every day, and it has helped tremendously combat any allergy issues that I have had over the last couple of years. So
very, very healthy. It's great for the immune system. But more important than the honey is they're pollinators. So without bees, we get a certain amount of crop yield, but with bees, we get 3 times or more
that's
crop
amazing.
yield with bees. So we're really looking for ways to simulate an ecosystem that's synergistic with different parts of the farm. And then the 5th and last part is, as I mentioned, half of the property is water, lake and pond. We were blessed approximately 2.5 years ago with a $10,000 grant from Bass Pro. And we used that money to stock the lake with channel catfish, F1 bigmouth bass, and crappie, all edible fish. And so this goes back to what I was saying earlier. We don't want to just give people a bag of food and send them home. We want to teach them how to fish so that we can feed them for life.
Yeah, like the old saying goes,
Yes.
what is it?
Give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, feed him for life.
Yeah.
And so that's
your goal, yeah.
That's our goal out there. We want them to learn life skill sets at the farm and so that they can take it back home, whether it's make a garden or make healthy choices in their eating or how to prepare the food so they get the full life cycle. Unfortunately, what I hear from some of our food pantry partners are that many of the food insecure are dependent on food pantries. And so we have 3 within 5 to 10 mile radius of the farm. We have Brazos Port Cares Food Pantry, we have Brazoria County Dream Center, and we have the Food Basket. And so what I hear is oftentimes a food insecure community member will tell me that they'll go to Food Pantry A on Monday, they'll go to Food Pantry B on Wednesday, and then they'll go to Food Pantry C on Friday. So they're dependent,
Right.
and there's this cycle that they can't break out of. One of our goals is to help the community members help themselves so they can break that cycle.
Yeah, that's great.
But your question, Kristen, was, how do we get the food to the community? So we do it really through 3 ways. One is we really want the community members that are struggling with food insecurity to come out to the farm so they can experience where their food is coming from.
Yeah, get their hands in the dirt a little bit.
Exactly. Put some sweat equity into it. And then they can leave with some food and skill sets. They're educated, and we share the gospel.
Yeah,
with
that's
them.
wonderful.
The second way is with surplus foods, we do donate them to our food pantry partners.
As you just mentioned, the 3 that you send to.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the third way is through word of mouth. If someone tells me who's a volunteer or who's a part of the food pantries and they send it, a family to us, we will give them food. We'll give them the opportunity to experience where their food is coming from.
Okay, awesome. You mentioned volunteers. So if anyone who's watching this wants an opportunity to come out and see the farm and help out, what are some of the volunteer opportunities that you have for people?
So we have standing volunteer days on every first and third Saturday of each month.
Okay, first and third Saturday. Okay.
From 9:30 to noon, and they'll get the opportunity to experience the 3 E's, farming experience, the nutritional education, and evangelism.
Okay.
So that's one way, is that they can come on those days. The second way is that they can contact us through our website, harvestforthehungrytexas.org.
Okay.
harvestforthehungrytexas.org. There's a contact tab there, and it'll either go to me or it'll go directly to my staff, and we can organize, if we get at least 1 or 2 week notice, for members to come out, as well as for volunteer organizations, whether it's a small group or whether it's a large group like a corporation community volunteer
Yes, I've been
day.
out there before when you've had some large groups. I think they were painting the deck and
Yes.
something like that when I was out there one day. Yeah.
Yes. And so we get lots of nonprofits, for-profits, churches, and just individuals. And one thing I do want to emphasize is that anybody can come out and volunteer. You don't have to just be a gardener. You don't have to be somebody who can do physical manual labor. You can be individuals who could help us with doing indoor stuff. Like we had volunteers this past week, and people were helping us put in shelves. They were helping us put together seed packets. They were helping us put together different packages and helping us prepare food for the volunteers. They were helping us to organize the new education center. So the point I'm trying to make is that there isn't a certain demographic, there isn't a certain race, there isn't a certain skill set that's needed. All are welcome at Harvest for the Hungry.
Okay, great. Sounds like there's a lot of opportunities for anyone, any age or anything for them to be able to help out there.
Absolutely.
So, one more thing that I wanted to kind of highlight before we end our conversation, on the property, other than just, the farm and the water, there are some buildings that can be utilized. Can you tell us about those?
Yes. So thanks for that question, Kristen. So prior to Harvest for the Hungry purchasing the property, this property actually belonged to my medical colleague. And I had briefly told you about how I struggled as a child with food insecurity. And I had been praying for the past 30 to 40 years that God would show me where and when to start an organization like this so we could address food insecurity, so others wouldn't have to go through what I went through. So 5 years ago, my medical colleague asked me, do you know anyone who wants to buy 61 acres in Freeport? So I knew God was telling me that's where to go.
Pay attention. Yeah.
And then the following week, friends and families and others aligned with the mission of addressing food insecurity came in, poured in money so that we purchased the property.
Wow, everything just aligned.
Yes. And so my medical colleague was using the house that's currently located on the property for a weekend home.
Okay.
And so what we are now using that house for is for Airbnb. And so for those that are wanting to volunteer or those that are wanting to just enjoy the farm, it is available for Airbnb, and all of those funds goes directly back into the nonprofit organization.
And so the home that's being on Airbnb, it's really close to the beach. So like maybe 5 minutes or so from the beach.
It's 5 to 7 minutes
Right.
driving from the beach.
So
Exactly.
if anyone is hosting, it's a large house. What is it? 4 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms,
Right.
3,500 square feet with a fenced-in pool, 3.5 baths. So it sleeps comfortably 12 individuals. There's pull-out beds and a large living room and den.
Yeah. So I actually co-hosted an event there earlier this year, and I believe that we had some come and go people, but I think at times we probably had 15. 16, 17 people there comfortably eating, sitting around on the couches and hanging out and just enjoying the yard, and the lake right outside the house. And so for anyone who is wanting to maybe host an event there, or has family coming out of town and wants to be close to the beach, or just if you have any friends or family out of town that want to be close to the beach and have a really beautiful farm to stay at for the weekend or the week. I mean, it's a great place. So,
yeah, thank you, Kristen. And so for anyone who might be interested, they can look on Evolve, Airbnb. It's posted on those websites. They can also look through the Harvest for the HungryTexas.org website.
Okay, so it's on that website as well.
Yeah, and they can go through the contact button, and we can make sure that they get taken care of.
And what other sorts of events can be hosted there?
All sorts of events. And so what type of events have we had before? We've had company team building events. We've had birthday party events, quinceañeros, type events, and so you name it.
A small wedding would be possible?
A small wedding would be possible as
I could
well.
imagine, the lake as the backdrop under the trees there with some twinkle lights.
Yes,
Would definitely be a great spot.
It's very picturesque.
Yeah,
no
for
doubt
sure.
there.
For sure. Okay, anything else on the property you want to highlight?
The other thing that I probably would like to highlight is the 4,000 square foot education center. And
Okay.
so we are going to be using that area not only for education, but we also will have opportunities to allow for people to rent that out as well. That space is, as I
Okay, so
mentioned,
this is another possible event space there on the property.
Absolutely.
So if the house doesn't meet your needs for an event, then there's that option as well.
Most definitely.
Okay.
And it's 4,000 square feet of open space. And so it sits comfortably 50 plus individuals. So you can have events there, team building events, any of those events that we talked about, birthday, wedding, team building events, or anything else.
Okay, that's wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And everyone who's watched this, keep Harvest for the Hungry in mind for volunteer opportunities or any events that you're having in the future. Keep them in mind. And so thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you, Kristen, for having me on your podcast.
The Brazoria County Minute is brought to you by BeRemembered.us. Tell your story. Be remembered.